appreciate every single one of you. But as I said, it's about all of us as a team, and no one of us is more important than any of the others. I just happen to have been the one that helped organize some of the stuff here tonight. But what we need to do now is, we're grateful that we got SB 35 passed, but now, as Jeremy said, there's a lot of work to do. And we've got to turn the spigot off in D.C. That Title 4D funding, Phyllis Schlafly said in 1995, it was going to create a fatherless society, and what she said is exactly what happened. If you read her article step by step. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people in our community to get the attention of federal leaders. Most people in our community don't know the process. That's one of the reasons why I put the manual out. And as I said, I'm not trying to sell, literally, if I sell every manual that we have, I won't make enough money to pay for 2 trips to DC. I can promise you. That's if we sell every one. And I don't think we're going to sell every one. Maybe I'm short selling myself. But the manual is out there because we need to educate people on the right way to build relationships with legislators for a long-term purpose. So that's one reason I put that guide together. So in the short term, or in the long term, we want to try and educate people in our community. In the short term, we need to hitch our wagon to large organizations. Some of you know, last week I was in Washington, D.C. with Tony Perkins that runs the Family Research Council. And I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, if he got 4 candidates for U.S. president to one event, he must know how to get attention from people in Washington, D.C. Because I can promise you, I couldn't get 4 presidential candidates. I mean, maybe one of you could, announce that you're running or something. We could get you up here, but to have, Trump, DeSantis, Pence, and Ramaswamy all at one event, and those were just some of the leaders. Andrew Bailey, our Attorney General, I had breakfast with him one day up there. But some of the biggest leaders in Washington are up there. If I call a Capitol, I may get a handful of people to take my call. But if Tony Perkins calls, I promise you his calls get answered. So we can either beat our head against the wall for the next 20 years trying to teach people how to do it, or why can't we hitch our wagon to Tony and talk to him about why this should be one of the platform items for the Family Policy Council? Well, I met individually, most of you know, I've been meeting with Tony. Matter of fact, Dr. Darren and Dr. Kelly were with me a couple years ago at a conversation I had with Tony Perkins. This last week I was with Tony and he literally said, Mark, if you can get the funds to come back to DC, I will personally arrange a meeting with you and our main policy council person to start discussions about getting Title 4D reform a part of the platform. Now, that's not going to say it's going to happen like in a couple months. It's usually a couple year process with an organization. But the hard part is getting the okay from the head of the organization to say, yes, you can meet with our people. That is now done. The opening is there. So that's one reason why we have the auction items. If I can get the funds to go to DC, they're going to start opening some meetings, but we also need to open doors. Most of you know, my gift is opening doors. I don't have the capacity mentally to articulate the message like a Kenneth or a Jeff or a Jeremy or where's Brian at? Brian, we've got a lot of people that need to come with me. So I need to go first, open some doors, get some meetings set up. So that's one of the things we're doing. We are working. Fortunately, we are now a part of the platform of the Eagle Council. Most of you know I'm on the board of directors there. And Gina's been with me a couple times. I think Rosa's here. He's been with me a couple times where Ed Martin has allowed us to speak on the same stage with Rand Paul and Ted Cruz. And so we're getting some doors open there. What we're doing, we met with some of the leaders earlier today. We've had some nationwide conference calls with certain leaders that we're picking. We'll talk about it in a little bit, some of the qualifications. Gina is the one with the baseball bat, so if, you're going to have to get approval from her. But no, there's a handful of us that are getting together, meeting with legislators in Washington, D.C. And so we're starting to have some conference calls, similar to Danica has a monthly or a bi-monthly conference call with leaders that she does a great job. There's about 20 of us that get on a call with her, sometimes 30. Ed Bartlett has a call that there's about 80 of us that get on that NPO's a part of. Matt's been on that, Don Hubin. Bill Fabricius is in that call every month, Linda Nielsen. But we all get on a call about once a month. But those are different issues. What we're specifically talking about now is Title 4D reform. And the door is open. We've got some legislators in Washington, D.C., most of you know Andy Biggs is one of them, who has literally said, I will sponsor the bill if you can get some of these other policy council organizations to go ahead and go forward with it. So we're going to be getting together on some conference calls. The rules are, number one, no disagreements amongst people. Okay? I don't care if you hate the people. Too bad. You know what? All of us fart when we sleep. So if you think you're better than somebody else, too bad, okay? Check yourself at the door. There's no sabotaging somebody else's efforts. Some of you know Matt Hale. I don't know if he's still here, but in the past, Matt Hale, some people may have thought that we didn't get along as well. Doesn't matter. It's time to bury the hatchet, and I invited Matt, and I'm darn glad he showed up. Matt's the one who passed the first bill in the country, and he deserves credit and recognition, and anything I'm ever a part of, Matt will be a part of. And don't talk bad about Matt Hale in front of me, because he's one of my colleagues working on this thing, and that's the attitude we all need to have. So if you want to be a part of this, there's no talking bad about anybody. There's no social media post. Most of our things are going to be done in private, so you won't be able to post. If we ever find out that you're a part of this and you make a post about meetings we've had, you're off the team. So that's one thing that we're going to be doing. If you're interested in that, get with me afterwards. Send me an email. I already mentioned the manuals. We're also going to be having a mentoring program. Every time I go to D.C., I meet with Ed Martin, both before I go and after I go. Why? Because he's there. His office is literally 3 houses down from the Hart Senate building. It's right next door to Mitch McConnell's house. But, he is right there in Washington. And he's got a lot more knowledge than I have. So why wouldn't I pick his brain to say, hey, Ed, I'm planning on meeting with this person. Sometimes he'll give me insights. Hey, don't talk about this. He's mad at this legislator, so don't bring their name up. And so I'll meet with people. Sometimes he allows me to use his name. And if he does that, I always have to report back to him because he needs to know how our meetings went. If you ever use somebody's name, please make sure that you call them back. Don't ever go to a legislator's office where you got that connection from somebody and you don't call them after every meeting and let them know what went on, because you're messing with the dynamics that's going on in the culture behind the scenes of a legislature. And Jamie Flick from Pennsylvania, he can tell you that some of that, it gets pretty nasty. So if anybody ever opens a door for you, please do me a favor, call them back and let them know every time. Don't just go sneaking and have little meetings off to the side and then you don't tell the person, because you're messing with some relationships that could really cost a lot of problems down the road. But we are having mentoring meetings similar to, and Ed's going to be actually a part of some of these. So we're going to have some conference calls. Ed will be on some of these calls. Possibly Bob McEwen, who some of you know is the head of CNP in Washington, D.C. So we're going to have some neat people like that involved. We are going to be working in a lot of other states. The next event that we're going to be doing is going to be in Indianapolis. It's probably going to be the 3rd or 4th Wednesday in January. I'm going to be checking with some of the Indianapolis people that are here today to find out. We've got some very good legislators that are willing to work on a bill in Indianapolis. I took Levi with me to the Capitol. Poor little kid, all our trips are always to a state capitol because I can't afford to go anywhere, so we combine our vacation time. I'm sure he's not thrilled about going to capitals anymore. But we are going to be in Indianapolis. So I think that's it. We are doing an online training, and I'll put the word out. This first one is free to anybody who buys the manual, because you're going to need to have the manual. The training is going to go through step by step the process involved in the manual. So you're going to want to make sure you get one, but it's going to include a 4-hour online training that we're going to do with the manual. So other than that, as I said, we are going to have some auction items. So if you can, please get over there and bid. We're going to have the manuals. We've got all kinds of like t-shirts and hats. I'm just not a merchandise type guy, but we bought some of those before COVID. They've been sitting in inventory. So if you can pitch in $5 or $10, I don't care, pitch in a quarter. Just anything you can pitch in is greatly appreciated, because we need to get back to DC to some of these meetings with Tony. So other than that, like I said, I do want to thank every single one of you guys for coming. We appreciate every single one of you. We're a community. Please try and remember that. What I encourage everybody to do, anytime you see an article, anytime you see somebody interviewed, the first thought in your mind shouldn't be, well, I don't like what they said in that article. The first thought in your mind should be, thank God somebody got something published and we're getting awareness out for the community. Always think of the positive, what somebody else is doing. Like I said, everybody in this room has a strength. We need to start focusing on some of those strengths. So thanks again, everybody. And like I said, we'll shut the auction down in like 15 minutes or so, but please get back to the auction. Please go ahead and buy a manual, and thanks for coming.